chained and forgotten. The sky was dark with red clouds. Wind blew across the rocky plains of planet Charon. In the middle of a dry, cracked land stood a tall metal pole. Chained to it was a creature no one cared about anymore. It had 4 strong legs, but one was badly hurt. Its thick fur was covered in dust, scars, and old blood. Its eyes, once sharp and proud, were now tired and full of pain. The alien beast known as Greyhorn had once been feared across the galaxy. But now, it was left here to die alone and broken. Greyhorn had served the royal family of Charon. It protected the palace from threats for many years. When enemies came, Greyhorn stood like a wall, unshaken and deadly. But after a surprise attack during a border war, Greyhorn had been badly injured. The royal family called it useless and ordered the guards to throw it outside the city. They chained it in the wastelands. No food, no water, and no hope. Each day, people passed by the creature. Some threw stones, others shouted, "Monster!" One alien child once cried for it, but her father pulled her away and said, "Don't, feel sorry for trash." Days turned to weeks. Greyhorn's body grew weaker. It stopped growling. It stopped fighting. The world had forgotten it. But someone was watching from far away. Captain Elias Ward, a human from Earth, sat in his small scout ship nearby. He had been sent to Charon to monitor strange signals, but the signal he picked up was not from a machine. It was a life form, weak, slow, and fading, but still alive. He zoomed in using his visor. What he saw made his heart ache. Is that a creature? Why is it chained like that? His AI assistant answered, "Unregistered life form, no recent movement, likely dying." But Elias didn't move away. He just stared at the screen. Long ago, during the Earth colony wars, he had lost his military dog in a bombing. Her name was Bess. He had trained her since she was a pup. She had saved him more than once. When she died, Elias never took another animal partner again. But now, looking at the suffering creature on the screen, something inside him stirred. He put on his jacket, grabbed a medical kit, and stepped out into the wind. Greyhorn lifted, its head weakly. Footsteps. Another one? Another stone? But the figure didn't shout or throw anything. It stopped a few meters away. Elias slowly knelt and opened a water bottle. He set it down and pushed it forward. "I don't know what you are, big guy," he said softly, "but I'm not here to hurt you." Greyhorn sniffed the air. The scent was strange, but not hostile. Its dry tongue moved. It looked at the water, then at the man. Elias noticed the hesitation. "You're smart," he said. "More than they give you credit for." Greyhorn moved, just a little. Then slowly, painfully, it reached for the water. It drank. Elias smiled and gently opened his medkit. The leg was bleeding. Infection was setting in. "I can help," he whispered, "if you let me." For the first time in weeks, Greyhorn didn't growl. It didn't snap. It let him touch its leg from behind the rocks. 2 aliens watched. "Why is a human helping that thing?" one asked. "I don't know," said the other, angry. "It should be dead by now." They turned away. "We need to tell the others." That night, Elias stayed near the beast. He built a small fire and sat under a thin tent. He didn't sleep much. Greyhorn's breathing was heavy, labored. Elias cleaned the wounds, gave painkillers, and checked the chains. "I'll need tools to cut those tomorrow," he said. "Hang in there." The beast said nothing, but its eyes didn't look so dead now. Elias looked up at the stars. "Why do people leave behind what once protected them?" he muttered. Greyhorn closed its eyes, but for the first time it didn't feel cold. It felt noticed. The next day, many across the city heard a strange rumor. A human was feeding the beast. A human was healing it. A human was touching it with care, like it wasn't a monster. Some laughed, others grew angry, and some grew curious. But none knew the full truth. because something ancient had awakened inside Greyhorn, and this was only the beginning. The morning sun on planet Karen rose with a weak orange glow. Dust clouds moved slowly over the plains. The alien beast Greyhorn opened its tired eyes. For the first time in weeks, something felt different. The pain was still there. The chains still cut into its skin. But beside it was warmth, a fire, and the scent of fresh food. Elias, the human, sat nearby. His hands were busy fixing a small metal device. He looked up and smiled when Greyhorn blinked. "Morning," he said softly. "You didn't die, that's a good start." Greyhorn stared. The man didn't smell like fear. He smelled like earth, oil, and kindness. Elias reached into his bag and took out a sealed pack. He opened it and tossed a chunk of protein nearby. "Greyhorn." The beast looked at the food, then at Elias. Slowly it stretched its neck forward and sniffed. No poison, no trick. It ate. Elias chuckled. "There you go. Big guy's got an appetite." He stood up and approached carefully, holding a scanning tool. "Let me check your leg again," he said. "Won't hurt. Promise." Greyhorn tensed but didn't growl. The human's hands were gentle, his voice stayed calm. Elias cleaned the wounds again and placed a new wrap over the worst part. "You're lucky I used to patch up soldiers," he said, "though none of them had claws this big." Greyhorn blinked again. For the first time it tilted its head, curious, but far away. Danger was moving closer. 3 alien guards from the city marched toward the wasteland. They wore light armor and carried electric pikes. "The human's still out there," said one, "feeding that beast." "The elders won't like that," said another. "That thing was sentenced to die. No one should touch it." They arrived at the edge of the hill. From there, they could see the fire, the small shelter, and the beast, still, chained but sitting up. One alien raised a communicator. "Send word to the council. The human refuses to leave." Back at the camp, Elias stood with a cutting tool. "All right, Greyhorn. Time to lose these chains." He powered the tool. Sparks flew as the metal links sizzled. Greyhorn flinched but didn't move. Piece by piece, the chains fell. Elias stepped back. "You're free now, but still healing. Don't go running off." Greyhorn didn't run. It stretched its limbs slowly, painfully. Then, it did something strange. It sat beside Elias. The human blinked. "Well, that's unexpected." He reached out a hand. Not fast, just offering. Greyhorn looked at it, then lowered its head. Elias gently patted the fur. "Good boy," he said, smiling. At that moment, a voice shouted from behind, "Step away from the beast, human." Elias turned quickly. 3 alien guards stood with weapons pointed. "You are interfering with justice," said the lead guard. "That creature was marked for death." Elias stood tall. "Then your justice is broken. This creature's alive. Aware. He didn't ask to be thrown out. You'll be punished too if you keep protecting it." Greyhorn let out a deep growl. The guard stepped back, gripping their weapons tighter. Elias raised a hand. "Easy, he's injured. But if you threaten me, I can't promise he'll stay calm." "This is your last warning," one alien said. Elias nodded. "Message received, but I'm not leaving." The guards walked off, but not before one said, "The elders will act. You've made a mistake, human." That evening, Elias worked quietly while Greyhorn rested. He set up a transmitter and sent a message back to his base. Subject: Greyhorn. Species unknown. Highly intelligent. Displays emotional response. Injured but recovering. Locals fear it, but I believe this creature was misunderstood. Will continue observation and care, requesting backup medical supplies. No weapons needed. Unless locals escalate. He shut the device off and sighed. Greyhorn slowly walked over and sat beside him again. Elias chuckled. "What are you, huh? Guard dog? Old soldier?" He looked up at the stars. "I know how it feels. Being thrown out, Left behind? Greyhorn leaned into him just slightly. Elias placed a hand on the beast's thick shoulder. I'm not giving up on you, not now. Inside the city, council leaders gathered in a large hall. The guards reported everything. A human has freed the beast? One shouted. Madness, perhaps, said a calmer voice. But the people talk. Some say the human treated it like a friend. Friends with monsters? That's a threat to order, or a challenge to what we believe. Silence. Then, the oldest member said, if the human does not leave soon, we'll make sure both disappear. The next day, Elias was building a larger shelter. Greyhorn dragged sticks to help. The human laughed. You're full of surprises. But across the plains, figures were watching, angry ones, silent, waiting. The real test had not yet begun. Greyhorn stood tall now, not fully healed but stronger than before. The scars on his body were many, but so were the signs of life in his eyes. Each day he limped less. Each day he ate better, and each day the bond between the human and the beast grew stronger. Elias had built a proper shelter using broken panels from his ship. It wasn't much, but it kept the wind out and gave Greyhorn a safe place to rest. Every evening, Elias would cook, check Greyhorn's wounds, and talk. He didn't know if Greyhorn understood all his words, but the beast listened. And sometimes Greyhorn would make a soft grunt or nudge Elias gently with his head, like saying, I hear you. But peace never lasted long on planet Karen. One morning, as Elias poured water into a bowl for Greyhorn, a shadow moved behind a hill. Then another, and another. Elias stood up fast, hand on his sidearm. 3 aliens stepped out, wearing brown robes and long silver chains around their necks. Their eyes glowed faintly blue. Clerics, the high priests of the Karen Council. The lead cleric raised his hand. You are warned, human. Elias stayed calm. Warned for what? For touching what was cursed, the cleric said. For healing what was meant to die. That beast was sentenced under ancient law. Then your ancient law is broken, Elias replied. This creature's no danger. He's calm. He's learning. The second cleric stepped forward. It's not about danger, it's about what he was. Elias narrowed his eyes. What was he? A destroyer, the cleric whispered. A weapon made by the old masters. They lost control, so it was chained. Greyhorn growled softly at the word destroyer. His claws dug into the dirt. Elias placed a calming hand on the beast's back. He was protecting your kind, wasn't he? The clerics didn't answer. The lead one simply said, Leave now, or be judged the same as the beast. Then, just as silently as they came, they disappeared into the dust. Later that night, Elias sat near the fire. He didn't eat. He kept checking the shadows. Greyhorn sat close. He could sense his human was worried. Elias spoke quietly. They're scared of you, of what you were. He looked into Greyhorn's glowing eyes. But I've seen what you are, now. Not a monster, not a destroyer. Greyhorn leaned his head onto Elias's lap. The human gently stroked the fur behind the beast's horn. Then a sound, a hiss. Elias stood fast. What was that? He looked around. A strange smell filled the air. Greyhorn began coughing. Hard. Elias ran to the food bowl and smelled it. His face turned red with rage. It's poison, he whispered. They tried to kill you. He threw the bowl aside and rushed to his medkit. He injected Greyhorn with an antidote and kept whispering, Stay with me, big guy. Don't you give up now. Greyhorn's breathing slowed, but he didn't collapse. The poison wasn't strong enough, thanks to the human's fast action. But now it was clear. This was war. The next day, Elias stood outside with a recording device in hand. He spoke clearly. To anyone who hears this, I'm reporting an attack. An attempt to poison a living creature in my care. He pointed the camera at Greyhorn, who now stood beside him, alert and watchful. This is not just an animal. He's intelligent, loyal. He deserves life. The video went live. And across The galaxy, people watched. Humans, aliens, traders, soldiers, scholars. Some shook their heads. Others leaned forward in silence. In the city, the council watched the video too. "This human is becoming a problem," one leader growled. "He's making us look like monsters. Then we must act, before more join him." That evening, a strange visitor arrived at Elias's camp. She was an older alien woman wearing plain clothes and carrying a small pouch. Greyhorn growled, but Elias raised a hand. "Wait, let her speak." The woman bowed slightly. "I am not here to harm you." Elias kept his guard up. "Then why are you here?" "I was once a caretaker of the beast," she said, voice shaking. "Before the war, before the chains." Elias's eyes widened. "You knew him?" "Yes. His name, long ago, was Sarn." She looked at Greyhorn. "He was not born a destroyer. He was made one. They forced him to fight." Elias stepped closer. "Why tell me this now?" "Because the council is coming, not with words, with fire." She handed him the pouch. Inside were old data chips. They show what he truly was, before they changed him. Then she turned and walked into the dust. Elias plugged the chips into his device. Old videos played, of Greyhorn, younger, running with children, guarding homes, saving families. He turned to the beast. "You're not just a weapon. You were a guardian." Greyhorn let out a long, low sound, almost like a sigh. Elias stood up, fist clenched. "If they want war, they'll find us ready." But even he didn't know how big the storm was that was coming. The next morning, Greyhorn stood tall at the edge of the camp, eyes sharp and alert. The air was quiet, but heavy. Elias checked the skies every few minutes. He could feel it. Something was coming. But for now, the human and the beast kept building. Using scrap metal, wood, and parts from Elias's small ship, they made a stronger shelter. It had thick walls and a lookout point. Greyhorn helped, dragging panels in his mouth, pushing them into place with his body. "You're better than half the soldiers I trained," Elias joked, wiping sweat from his brow. Greyhorn gave a soft grunt and shook his head like a big dog. His mood had changed. He moved with purpose now. His eyes no longer looked dead. The bond between man and beast had grown into something more. Trust. Elias knew it. Greyhorn felt it. And soon, others would see it too. 3 traders passed through the area later that day. They had heard rumors about the human who healed the cursed beast. They expected to find something wild, dangerous. But what they saw shocked them. Greyhorn was sitting calmly beside the human, watching over supplies like a trained guard animal. When Elias greeted them, Greyhorn only gave a warning snort, not attacking. "He listens to you?" one trader asked. Elias nodded. "He understands more than most people." The traders recorded a short video. "No one will believe this." Elias said, "Let them watch. Maybe it'll change something." By evening, that video was already spreading. People across the galaxy watched in silence. Some cried, some were angry. Others felt something they hadn't in years, hope. But in the halls of the Karen Council, the reaction was very different. "They are making the beast look noble," one leader hissed. "Worse," another added, "the people are starting to ask questions." The elder leaned forward. "Then we must silence them before this bond becomes legend." The next night, the stars were hidden behind thick black clouds. Elias sat near the fire, reading one of the old data chips the caretaker had given him. It showed logs of Greyhorn's early years. He was raised in a protector program, trained not to kill but to shield the weak. Elias spoke softly. "You never wanted to hurt anyone, did you?" Greyhorn lay beside him. His giant head rested near the fire. His ears twitched. At the sound of Elias's voice, "You were just used, then thrown away." Greyhorn didn't make a sound, but his eyes closed slowly. He understood. Then, in the middle of the night, something changed. Greyhorn sat up suddenly. His nose twitched. A low growl rumbled from his chest. Elias woke instantly. "What is it?" Greyhorn walked toward the edge of the camp, body low. That's when they heard it, metal footsteps. Hissing gas. Movement in the dark. "They're here," Elias said. Suddenly a flash of light hit the camp. 3 figures in cloaks ran forward, gas bombs in hand. "Attack!" one shouted. Greyhorn roared and charged. Elias grabbed his pulse. Gun but didn't fire. Greyhorn moved faster than any weapon. With one leap, he knocked a cloaked attacker to the ground and stood over him, growling. Another tried to throw a bomb. Elias shot it from his hand mid-air. Sparks exploded. The third attacker ran, but Greyhorn chased him down and blocked the path. Elias caught up. "Stop, Greyhorn," he ordered. To the surprise of the attackers, the beast obeyed. He stepped aside, allowing Elias to grab the alien and tie him up. 3 attackers, Elias muttered. "Sent to silence us." One of the cloaked aliens hissed, "It's too late. The council already voted. They'll wipe you both out." Elias looked at Greyhorn, who stood beside him, calm, strong, and ready. "Then they'll see," Elias said coldly, "that Greyhorn is no longer alone." The next day, Elias released a new message across the galaxy. It showed the attackers, their weapons, the poison. It showed Greyhorn saving Elias, not hurting him. "Who is the real monster?" Elias asked in the video. "The one who protects, or the ones who try to kill what they fear?" That video went viral. More humans joined the message. Alien scholars, former soldiers, and even young Coronian rebels started speaking out. One line echoed across every screen. "The bond between the human and the beast shows what we all forgot. Compassion." Inside the council hall, panic was spreading. "They've lit a fire in the hearts of the people," one said, "and it's spreading fast." The elder stood slowly. "Then we destroy them both, before they become a symbol." Back at the camp, Elias placed his hand on Greyhorn's side. "They're scared now," he said. Greyhorn gave a soft growl of agreement. "Good," Elias replied, "because we're not running." From high above, ships began to move. But on the ground, a human and a once feared beast stood side by side, and the bond between them could not be broken. The sky above Karen turned red as warships moved through the clouds. The council had made their decision. The human had crossed the line. The beast should have died long ago. Now both were seen as a threat. Inside a silver chamber aboard one of the council ships, a general gave the final command. "Burn the camp. End this story." But this story was not ending. It was just beginning. Down on the wasteland plains, Elias worked quickly. He had fortified the shelter as much as possible. Extra panels, shields, and sensors covered the small camp. The fire flickered low and Greyhorn lay beside it, ears alert. Elias glanced at the sky. "They're coming," he said. Greyhorn growled softly. Elias put down his tools and knelt beside him. "This is where they expect us to give up. But we won't." Greyhorn stared at him, silent but fierce. A beeping sound came from Elias's scanner. Red lights flashed, dozens of heat signals. Air units approaching fast. Elias stood. "Here we go." The ships roared overhead. Dust and wind exploded around the shelter. Then came a voice through speakers. "Step away, human. Leave the beast, or we will burn you both." Elias stepped into the open. His voice was strong, even against the sound of engines. "No, I won't run. I won't leave him." There was a long silence. Then the fire began. Flames dropped from the sky, hitting the edge of the camp. Metal groaned. Panels shattered. Smoke filled the air. Greyhorn roared and stood between Elias and the fire. His giant body took the brunt of the blast. The fire didn't stop him. He charged forward through smoke and dust, eyes glowing. Council. Troops jumped from ships and aimed their weapons, but Greyhorn didn't attack to kill. He smashed weapons, knocked enemies down, and roared so loud it shook the ground. Elias used his blaster only to stop more bombs. "No death," he shouted. "Let the world see the truth." One soldier raised his weapon at Elias, but Greyhorn tackled him just in time. The soldier fell hard but not dead. The fight went on for minutes, but it felt like hours. Then, silence. The smoke cleared. Greyhorn stood in front of Elias, burned, bleeding, but alive. All around them, council troops lay on the ground, their weapons broken, but their lives spared. And the whole thing had been recorded. Back in orbit, the footage was already spreading. Civilians on distant planets saw everything: the fire, the attack, the defense, and most of all, how Greyhorn didn't kill a single soldier. A famous alien historian whispered as she watched. The monster showed more mercy than the council ever did. A young alien boy hugged his mother and said, "I want to be brave like the beast." Elias stood with a bandage on his arm, watching as Greyhorn rested under the stars. The fire had stopped. For now. "You could have killed them all," Elias said, "but you didn't." Greyhorn opened one tired eye. "You knew the world was watching," Elias continued, "and you showed them who you really are." He touched the beast's shoulder gently. "You didn't just save me. You saved yourself." A few hours later, a transport ship landed near the edge of the wasteland. It wasn't from the council. It was from the United Human Coalition. A team stepped out. Doctors, techs, journalists. Elias raised an eyebrow. "Didn't expect you so soon." The lead officer smiled. "We saw the broadcast. We came to help and to protect." Greyhorn watched from the shadows. He didn't growl. He didn't hide. He stepped out and walked slowly toward the humans. One small medic gasped. "He's beautiful." The team began scanning his wounds gently with care. Greyhorn didn't flinch. For the first time in his life, strangers were helping him, not hurting him. Far above, the council held an emergency meeting. "The people demand answers," said one elder. "They call the human a hero. They call the beast a savior." Another slammed his fist on the table. This was supposed to be over. But the truth was now free, and it burned through the stars like a fire they couldn't stop. That night, Elias sat beside Greyhorn again. The wind had calmed. The stars were clear. "You've done something bigger than fight," Elias said. "You changed minds. You opened hearts." Greyhorn closed his eyes and let out a soft, peaceful breath. Elias leaned back and smiled. "They tried to silence us with fire," he whispered, "but all they did was light a flame." And somewhere, across the galaxy, someone new whispered the beast's name. Not as a curse, but as a legend. Two suns rose over the wasteland. Their soft light touched the broken ground, the burned out shelters, and the wounded but proud beast resting near the fire. Greyhorn's breathing was slow but steady. The firestorm from the council attack had passed. He had survived. So had Elias. Inside the shelter, Elias watched a blinking screen. Messages poured in from across the galaxy. The beast saved lives. He's not a monster. He's proof that change is possible. Protect them. Both of them. Elias turned off the screen and stepped outside. Greyhorn looked up as the human approached. "You did it," Elias said. "You changed the story, but there's still more we don't know." At that moment, a small shuttle appeared in the sky. It was old, rusted, and unarmed. Elias reached for his weapon, but didn't raise it. The shuttle landed, and a single figure stepped out. A pale, thin alien man with a breathing mask and a slow walk. Greyhorn stood but didn't growl. His eyes narrowed. The man stopped a few feet away. He looked at Greyhorn with quiet sadness. "I was afraid," he said. "Afraid to come back." Elias stepped forward. "Who are you?" "My name is Sari," he said. "I am the last scientist who worked on Project Greyhorn." Greyhorn gave a low rumble. Sari raised his hands. "I didn't come to hurt you. I came to tell the truth." Elias nodded. "Then speak." The three of them sat inside the shelter. Sari placed a small cube on the table. It lit up and showed a 3D image, a lab full of young creatures. One of them was Greyhorn, small, gentle-eyed. I was part of a team that designed protectors, Sari explained. Creatures with strength, loyalty, and intelligence. They were meant to guard border colonies and defend civilians. He sighed. But the Council changed our mission. They wanted weapons, not guardians. The image changed. Greyhorn in a cage, being injected, trained to fight, pushed past his limits. We tried to stop it, but we had no power. And when Greyhorn refused to follow orders during the last war, they called him a failure. Greyhorn lowered his head, his tail curled close to his body. They chained him, Sari whispered. And I ran. I was a coward. Elias clenched his fists. You let them throw him out like trash. Yes, Sari admitted. And I regret it every day. He turned to Greyhorn. I came to ask forgiveness, but also to help. He placed a second cube on the table. This has his full memory files, proof he was a protector, never a monster. You show this to the people, and they'll know the truth. Elias looked at the cube. This could change everything. Sari nodded. But it will also put a target on you both. The Council won't let the truth survive. Elias glanced at Greyhorn. The beast sat tall again, strong, calm. Let them try, the human said. We're not running. That night, Elias uploaded the files. Across the galaxy, the truth unfolded. Children watched Greyhorn playing with other younglings. Teachers showed clips of his early missions saving colonists from danger. Soldiers wept as they watched him protect wounded fighters, not hurt them. He was a hero, one man whispered, and we turned our backs. News feeds exploded. Project Greyhorn was never a weapon. The beast we abandoned was meant to save us. Will the Council apologize? Inside the Council chambers, panic spread. They know everything. A leader growled. Who leaked the files? It doesn't matter. Another snapped. We've lost control of the story. The elder slammed his staff on the floor. Then we take back control. Send assassins. End the human and the beast. Quietly. Back. At the camp, Sari stood to leave. I've said all I could, he told Elias. You did more than most, Elias replied. Sari turned to Greyhorn and bowed deeply. I'm sorry. You were never a monster. You were hope. Greyhorn said nothing, but he stepped forward and pressed his forehead gently against the man's shoulder. Sari closed his eyes, shaking with emotion. Thank you. He boarded his shuttle and vanished into the night. Later, as stars lit the sky, Elias looked at Greyhorn beside the fire. They'll come for us again, he said. We know too much now. Greyhorn gave a low growl. But this time, Elias continued, the galaxy knows who you really are. He pulled out a small banner, one someone had sent from a distant world. It showed Greyhorn's image, with the words, Protector, Survivor, Friend. Elias held it high. Greyhorn let out a deep, proud roar that echoed through the night. It was not a sound of anger. It was the sound of truth. And the stars were listening. The stars above Karen were no longer silent. From every corner of the galaxy, spaceports, learning halls, battle stations, and poor mining colonies, beings gathered around screens. They weren't watching war. They weren't watching a king's speech. They were watching a beast and a man. Greyhorn stood on a platform in the center of a great alien hall. His thick body was scarred but proud. Next to him stood Elias, wearing a simple jacket and calm eyes. Behind them were flags, not just of Earth but of dozens of species who now stood beside them. Before them sat the Galactic Council Tribunal. And this time, the Council could not hide behind smoke and shadows. The trial of Greyhorn had begun. The Council's lead judge, a four-eyed being named Versac, banged a crystal hammer on the platform. This hearing is to determine the fate of the creature once known as Project Greyhorn, and the human who defied Council law. Elias stepped forward. May I speak? You may, Versac replied. Elias's voice was steady. You call him a creature, but I call him a friend, a guardian, a soul betrayed. He turned to the crowd, dozens of species watching from seats, thousands more watching live feeds. He was made to protect. You saw the files. He played with children. He saved your soldiers. He never asked to fight. You forced him to. Gasps echoed through the hall. A Coronian elder shouted, "He killed thousands in the border war." Elias responded, "He was drugged, controlled. You locked him in a cage, then blamed him for breaking the bars." Greyhorn stood still beside him. His tail didn't twitch. His breath was calm. Then Elias said quietly, "And still, he chose not to kill when you burned his camp. He spared every life." The judge looked at the council guards present. None could deny it. The footage had gone viral. Greyhorn, the so-called beast, had shown more mercy than those who called themselves just. Then the surprise happened. A young alien girl stepped from the crowd. She walked with a limp, holding a toy version of Greyhorn. I was saved by him," she said. "During the fires. He picked me up and put me under a shield. He didn't even look at my species, he just protected." Her voice trembled. Why would a monster do that? She turned and bowed before Greyhorn. The hall went silent. Then one person stood and clapped, then another, then dozens more. The chamber shook with applause. The council panicked. "This is chaos," shouted one elder. But Versac, the head judge, raised a hand. Silence. He looked down at Greyhorn, who now met his gaze without fear. "I have reviewed the files. I have seen the actions. This beast was wronged, not once, but for years." He turned to Elias. "And you, human, you saw worth where others saw waste. You taught the galaxy again what we forgot. Mercy." Then the final judgment came. Project. Greyhorn is hereby cleared of all crimes. He shall be recognized as a sentient being, a protector, and a symbol of peace. The room exploded with cheers. Elias turned to Greyhorn. "You're free," he whispered. "Truly free." Greyhorn didn't roar, he didn't growl, he simply closed his eyes and leaned gently against the man who saved him. Later, outside the grand hall, the crowd gathered around Greyhorn and Elias. Children reached out to touch the beast's thick fur. He let them. He even licked one on the cheek, making her giggle. News. Cameras zoomed in as different species stood side by side. One reporter said, "This is more than forgiveness. This is history." But far away, in the shadows of the outer sectors, not everyone was pleased. A hooded figure watched the broadcast, his eyes cold. "He was supposed to die in silence," he said. "Now he's their hero." Another voice replied, "The human must be watched. So must the beast. They've changed the game." The figure turned off the screen. Let them enjoy peace. For now. Back on Karen, Elias and Greyhorn stood near a new monument, a statue of them both side by side, surrounded by symbols of unity. Elias placed a hand on the base of the statue and smiled. "I thought saving one life was enough," he said softly. "But you helped save more than that. You helped save hope." Greyhorn let out a soft rumble like a purr. He didn't need words. They walked off together, past the cheers, past the cameras, heading to a small ship waiting in the field. Not as fugitives, not as weapons, but as legends. And across the galaxy, people told the story again and again. Though, beast they abandoned, the human who stayed, and how together, they made the stars believe again.